Hi, welcome to another episode of Counterpunch with Trevor Loudon. We're fighting back against the world communist revolution and we need everybody to be on board. This is the battle of our lifetimes. So please like the show, share the show, put it around as much as you can. Well, we've been hearing a lot in the last couple of years about foreign involvement in American elections. Well, this has been going on since the 1920s, the 30s, through the communist movement, etc. But I'm going to talk tonight about an organization that has never really got any public attention, but it is interfering in American politics and it does have communist roots. So I want to show you a little photograph here. This is from June 2021, very recent, and it's an older gentleman with Tiffany Caban. Now, she is a member of Democratic Socialists of America, a Marxist, and she's now a New York City councilwoman. Here's another photograph of the same elderly gentleman. This time he has a picture of Rosa Luxemburg behind him, the famous German revolutionary of the 1920s. The gentleman is standing with a group that includes Sean Levin. He's a member of the staff of Democratic Socialists of America Congresswoman Cori Bush from Missouri. There's Adrian Salazar from the Grassroots Global Justice Alliance. That's a Front for Liberation Road, a pro-Chinese Communist Party. And here's Kate Aronoff, a left-wing journalist for the New Republic. So just who is this elderly gentleman and what is his significance? Well, here's a photograph from 1989. This man, Gregor Gysi, was at the time the last leader of the East German Communist Party. When communism fell in East Germany, Gregor Gysi took the reins of the Socialist Unity Party, the East German Communist Party. He never became the leader of the East German state, but he became the leader of that particular party. Gregor Gysi was a lawyer and was on the moderate wing of the East German Communist Party, if there was such a thing. But the East German Communist Party, as you know, was responsible for the Berlin Wall, thousands of deaths, torture, intimidation, massive spying by their secret police, the Stasi, etc., a totalitarian regime. And Gregor Gysi, as many former members of the party, has been credibly accused of spying for the Stasi on fellow East German citizens. The party loyally supported the Soviet Union right up till the end. So what is a leader of the old Socialist Unity Party doing hanging around with New York activists and politicians? Well, after the collapse of East Germany, the old Socialist Unity Party, the Communist Party, changed its name to the Party of Democratic Socialism. Then it changed its name again to a new name, Die Linke, the left party. It's now the fifth biggest party in the German parliament. It gets about anything between 10 and 15% of the vote, depending on the area and the election. Now, Gregor Gysi became the leader of the Party of Democratic Socialism for many years, and he's also a very highly placed leader of Die Linke. He's sort of the party's elder statesman, a very popular figure. Now, while the Die Linke calls itself a democratic and etc., and party of democratic socialism, it is communist. There's openly communist factions within it, and up until recently it has been a major target of the German intelligence services. Die Linke also has a foundation, and it's funded by the German taxpayer. If you're in parliament in Germany, you get a lot of money. You can set up a foundation in your name. Now, Die Linke set up the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation in Berlin. It has offices in about 20 countries across the world, from Latin America to Africa, South Africa, North Africa, certain countries in Europe, communist Vietnam, in communist China, in Beijing, and also in Moscow. So it has this network, and it also has the Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung in Madison Avenue, New York. So this East German Communist Party, this reincarnation of the East German Communist Party, actually has an office in downtown Manhattan. So what would they want that for, do you think? They want the office because they're still in the revolution business. And the office in Manhattan is where they coordinate with the United Nations, they're very strong there, and also with North American, with United States and Canadian communists. They're trying to build the communist revolution in America.
IC is part of the international network of the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation. In New York City, our main tasks are, number one, working on issues having to do with the United Nations, and number two, working with United States and Canadian progressives, supporting their work and building bridges between the left on both sides of the Atlantic.
So these former East German communists are actually working in the United States to influence American domestic politics. Gregor Gysi is very heavily involved to this day with the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, which is almost certainly why he was in New York. The Rosa Luxemburg Foundation and its branches like the Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung in New York are led by virtually all by Die Linke people, many of them former members of the East German Communist Party. Prominent amongst those are the Brie brothers, Andre and Michael. They're both heavily involved in the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, both Die Linke members and both very prominent members of the former East German Communist Party. They were communist royalty. Their father, Horst Brie, was a long-time German communist who ended up becoming the East German Communist ambassador to the Communist People's Republic of China. So they were very well born in communist country, very well born. They were sort of communist princelings. Both sons, Michael and Andre, have been named as Stasi informants, informing on foreign students working in East Germany, colleagues and friends. So this is pretty much standard practice. If you're a prominent East German communist, you are pretty much working with the Stasi, with the secret police. And they have had a lot of grief over the years as these revelations have kept coming out. But the left party, the Die Linke, doesn't kick them out of the party, because if they did that, they'd probably have to kick out many of their senior leadership. It's a Stasi party. Die Linke, in common with their ally Podemos, a similar communist party in Spain, and Syriza in Greece, are three of the most pro-Russian modern European communist parties. You know, this is the age of Putin, the age of united Russia, when the Communist Party of Russia is supposedly the opposition in the Russian Duma. But many European communists still look to the old Soviet Union for guidance. They still look to Moscow, they still look to Russia, they still look to Putin. So this myth that when Putin took over Russia, that European communists turned their back on Russia is just that. It's a fallacy, it's a myth. Now, Andre Brie, one of the Brie brothers, actually represents Die Linke on the steering committee of the German-Russian Petersburg Dialogue. Now, this is a group set up to firm up relations between Germany and Russia, to build links between Germany and Russia. It was set up by Putin himself, Vladimir Putin, and Gerhard Schroeder, the very left-wing former Chancellor of Germany, the man who led towards Russia. He believed in East politics, orientating Germany towards Russia. And so Andre Brie is a very key part of this mechanism, so which is another one of the pro-Russia links that Die Linke doesn't like to talk about publicly. Incidentally, back in 1994, Andre Brie visited Chicago for the founding of the Committees of Correspondence, a breakaway group from the Communist Party USA. Angela Davis was there. Congressman Danny Davis, a long-time communist supporter, was there. A leader of the South African Communist Party. People from the Cuban Communist Party were there. And Mr. Brie, Comrade Brie, was there representing the Party for Democratic Socialism, now known as Die Linke. So they were involved in US politics right back into the 90s. Now, the actual Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung was established in 2012 and immediately started working with US communists, right from the start. In 2013, it actually convened a meeting in Manhattan with representatives of Communist Party USA, Democratic Socialists of America, the Committees of Correspondence, the breakaway from the Communist Party USA, and what was then known as the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, now known as Liberation Road. And Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung was trying to get these 4 American communist groups to unite, to become one United American Communist Party. So they were they were trying to influence American politics. Here's a picture from 2013 of Maria Svart, the head of Democratic Socialists of America, at the Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung. DSA was involved right from the start. The Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung has always had German leadership. Stephanie Emsem, Albert Scharenberg, both Die Linke members. The current leader of the organization is Andreas Gunther, and he was previously Die Linke's head of the Department of International Policy. They're putting important communists into the New York office. These are not low-level cadre. These are leading members of Die Linke that they're sending to the United States to work with American communists. Now, a lot of Americans work for the organization as well. One of them was Ethan Earle. He worked there for 8 years coordinating groups around the country, and he is a member of the Democratic Socialists of America International Committee. So, these are the people who work with the European communists, Latin American communists. They have become part of the Sao Paulo Forum, which is the alliance of Latin American Communist parties set up by Fidel Castro to promote revolution in South America. So looks like they're trying to do it in North America too. Another one was Heidi Schwa. She's a DSA member, leader of People for Bernie. There's Kazembe Balagun. He's very close to Liberation Road, very active in People for Bernie, and author of the 2014 book, Imagine Living in a Socialist USA. A current project manager for the United States and the United Nations is Aaron Eisenberg, another member of Democratic Socialists of America. Another hang-around of the Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung. He's not a paid staff member, but he's at their events all the time. He organises events for them. He'll travel out of state for events for them. Very, very close to the organisation is a New York activist named Ethan Young. Now, he is also a DSA member, used to be in Line of March, a Maoist organisation in the 80s that went from a pro-Chinese position to a more of a pro-Gorbachev, pro-Soviet position towards the end of the Soviet Union. Now, incidentally, Ethan Young is the son of the late Chicago physician Quentin Young. Quentin Young was in the Communist Party for many years, and then he joined Democratic Socialists of America in the early 80s. He is the founder of the single-payer healthcare movement in this country. He has done more to push socialized medicine in this country than anyone else you could name. And for many years, he was the doctor to and political mentor of Barack Obama. He openly takes credit for indoctrinating Obama into the ideas of socialized healthcare.
Longtime friend of Barack Obama. How has he changed over the years?
Well, Barack Obama, as we know, was a community organizer, a very lofty calling in my book, and he made the decision when the opportunity came that he could get more done politically, and he accepted the nomination for the seat in the state Senate. It's not that long ago, really. It's about 6 to 8 years ago. Barack Obama, in those early days, influenced, I hope, by me and others, categorically said single payer was the best way, and he would inaugurate it if he could get the support, meaning majorities in both houses, which he's got.
So there's a little bit of an Obama connection there, a sort of distant Obama connection. In 2014, the Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung organised a big gathering at Briarcliff Manor. This is sort of a Tony event centre in upstate New York. And they called it Mapping Socialist Strategies. There was about 200 people there from the United States, from Canada, Europe, and they were there to basically work out how to promote the revolution in North America and Europe and how they could cross-pollinate and work together.
For Mapping Socialist Strategies, we are bringing together socialist leaders from across the United States, from Canada and Europe, leaders of local struggles in the communities, leaders of labor, of social movement networks, leaders of socialist parties, of educational reform, and of progressive media.
The guests included very top leaders of the Communist Party USA, like Libero Della Piana, his partner Judith LeBlanc, the woman who engineered the Marxist Deborah Harlan to become Secretary of the Interior in the United States, by the way. Mark Brodeen of the Communist Party's Environmental Commission, a leader of the Washington State Communist Party. From Liberation Road, there's Bill Gallegos, very big activist in the Mexican Solidarity Movement, trying to work to keep the borders open and the illegal immigrants flooding across the border. And Alondria Williams of the Highlander Center. That's based in Tennessee. It's a training school for communists, mainly run by Liberation Road, and their goal is to turn the South left, to flip southern states, like they've already done in Virginia and are well on their way to doing in Georgia and other states.
What does this concept socialism mean to us, and where do we want to take it in the future?
Also, another affiliate of Liberation Road was a man called Carly Acunho of the Malcolm X grassroots movement, which is very, very close to Liberation Road. They worked together with Liberation Road to elect Chokwe Lumumba, then later his son, Chokwe Anta Lumumba, to the mayoralty of Jackson, Mississippi. Two of the biggest Marxist radicals in the country become mayor of that little town, that, well, reasonably big town in Mississippi. And they've turned it into a center of communist organizing. The Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung has close links with these people. From the committees of correspondence for democracy and socialism, you had leaders Ann Mitchell and Pat Fry. And there's a lot of people from Left Roots. Left Roots is a sort of subsidiary of Liberation Road, but it has a few DSA people in it, a few committees of correspondence people in it. It's a few former League of Revolutionary Struggle people in it. It's basically, from what I can tell, it's sort of a front for Liberation Road. There's a lot of crossover membership. A lot of these people are connected to China, to Communist Vietnam, to Venezuela, the radical movements of Brazil, etc. At the meeting were the two Left Roots founders, Steve Williams and Natanya Lee. Steve Williams used to be involved with Storm, standing together to organize a revolutionary movement. Another Left Roots member there was Alex Tom. Now, he was a long-time leader of the Chinese Progressive Association in San Francisco. That's a big voter registration organization that basically runs that city. You don't get elected in San Francisco without their blessing. And he is really, in my opinion, the brains behind Black Lives Matter. He set up Asians for Black Lives, which wrote the manuals for Black Lives Matter. He is very closely connected to the Chinese consulate in San Francisco, has very closely tied to the Chinese Communist Party, and a very close friend of Black Lives Matter founder Alicia Garza. And of course, Alicia Garza was also at the Mapping Socialist Strategies.
To me, socialism is about how we care, how we value care, and how we practice care.
And by the way, here's a photograph of another Black Lives Matter founder, Opal Tometi, at the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation in Berlin. So there's definitely Black Lives Matter connections there. DSA had their number 2 player, Joseph Swartz, at the meeting, and the number 1 player, Maria Svart. They also had Betsy Avila, who was then co-chair of Young Democratic Socialists of America. They also had the famous or infamous Frances Fox Piven, the very elderly Democratic Socialists of America member who came up with her equally socialist husband with the famous Cloud Piven strategy. In the 70s in New York, they tried to get everybody in the city on welfare. The goal was to collapse the New York City welfare budget and the New York City government to bring in socialism. They were also heavily involved when Bill Clinton signed the motor voter law. You basically registered to vote when you registered your car or got a driver's license, etc. And so they were heavily involved in that. Very, very deep Marxists.
Thinking should go into what can make movements more effective by becoming more disruptive. How we can throw more sand into the gears of the system. How we can make the system more ungovernable. That's a strategy question. It means we should look at the weak points in the systems of production and distribution and governance which constitute the neoliberal political economy. And we should look at the way those weak points mesh with our constituencies, their location, what capacity they have to act on those weak points.
Another attendee at the meeting was Jose La Luz, a very senior DSA member, a former leader of the pro-Cuban Puerto Rican Socialist Party, a Marxist-Leninist group, who's just now got himself re-elected to the National Political Committee of Democratic Socialists of America. There were several Die Linke people there, including the old Stasi spy Michael Bree.
And this is actually where this unconference fits in.
A leader of the Dutch Socialist Party, the Portuguese Left Bloc, the Slovenian Initiative for Democratic Socialism, the Swedish Left Party, which came out of the Swedish Communist Party, Syriza from Greece, and Podemos from Spain, the two pro-Russian communist parties who are very closely allied to Die Linke. In June 2017, the Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung did a Train the Trainer workshop in Manhattan. They had 30 members of Democratic Socialists of America there. This is the brains of the Bernie movement. This is 2017, right? Just after Trump had come to office. And so they were training up Democratic Socialists of America members, the backbone of the Bernie movement, to influence US politics. In November 2017, they held another training, and this time it was for DSA's AfroSoc branch, people of color branch of Democratic Socialists of America, African American, Asian, quite a few races in there, but mainly African Americans. As you can see by this photo, there's Maria Svart, head of DSA. There's Beth Huang, a leader of Boston Democratic Socialists of America. There's Christian Hernandez, one of the leaders of the Dallas, North Texas Democratic Socialists of America. And there's Jabari Brisport, who is now a New York State Senator, just elected in the last election cycle. And also Kazembe Balagun was there as well, the older staff member from the Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung, who's very close to quite a few DSA members. So they're training people here for leadership roles in the US political left. So this is a German taxpayer-funded political organization run by former East German communists who are very close to Russia, training American left-wing political leaders, actually training them. Is this legal, do you think? Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung has sponsored a Young Democrats Socialists of America Winter Convention. In 2018, the Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung sponsored a conference in Montreal, Canada, called Historical Materialism. Ethan Young was there, DSA members were there, several Die Linke activists were there, including the infamous Michael Bree, the old Stasi informant. I keep saying that, but you can't say it too often. These people are working with former East German Communist Party informants, the people who sent people to jail, sent people who could have been executed or tortured. And they are top members of this organization today. In March 2018, the Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung led a delegation to a retreat of the Congressional Progressive Caucus in Baltimore, Maryland. So who's the Congressional Progressive Caucus? Well, it's a group in the Democratic Party. It was started in the early 90s by Bernie Sanders and Democratic Socialists of America to push socialist policies into the Democrats. It's now 95 or 96 members strong. And it's basically a transmission belt for communist and socialist ideas. You know, these are the people pushing the Green New Deal. These are the people pushing immigration amnesty. These are the people pushing, socialized healthcare and the PRO Act and all the voter registration legislation that the Democrats want to push through. This is coming through the Congressional Progressive Caucus, and the Congressional Progressive Caucus is working with the Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung. The Rosa Luxemburg delegation included Ethan Earle, one of their staffers, Albert Scharenberg, who was the co-leader of the organization, Sven Dagdalen, a Die Linke MP, Member of Parliament from Germany, Eduardo Maura, a Member of Parliament for Podemos in Spain, Giannis Buonas from Syriza in Greece. There was Diane Abbott, a very far left member of the British Parliament, part of the Jeremy Corbyn wing. So these were very senior European Marxists and communists meeting with members of the US Congress like Barbara Lee and Pramila Jayapal and Raul Grijalva and Ro Khanna and Mark Pocan. So it's clear that the Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung is trying to influence American politics at every level. They're training activists, they're mixing with members of Congress. They are trying to move America towards socialism, all funded by the German taxpayer and run by people with roots in the East German Communist Party. Apparently the FBI hasn't been looking at these people. Maybe the CIA should. Maybe some brave Republican congressmen should do something about this. So please, if you found this interesting, pass it round, pass it to any politicians that you know, any journalists you know. We need to get this kind of thing exposed. I'm sure the German taxpayer would also like to know that their money is being funneled into American revolution. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you found this show interesting. Like us, share us, get this message out as far and fast as you can. God bless America and God bless all of you. Thank you.